Okay, everybody, thank you again for coming back. I know it's a challenge to be here on Thursday afternoon, but we really appreciate your commitment and your interest in the work. We would like to start now the second session that will include 3 talks. Dr. Sif Al-Ghais will chair kindly this session, and it will last probably 45 minutes, 15 minutes each talk. And then we'll on-chain directly with a short panel discussion to summarize the outcome of the whole workshop. Thank you. Dr. Sif, please.
Assalamu alaikum. I think I'm going to be talking in Arabic, so that in that way you will be awake. Anyhow, I believe all of you know this session is going to be really focusing on the threat to the marine environment, which we all know, and what sort of effort we are doing either in, as Dr. Marwan mentioned, in Ras Al Khaimah or in any other part of the UAE. This is going to be three talks. Mine going to be the last one, therefore I will shut everyone off within the first 10 minutes so I could save some time for myself. So the first talk going to be given by Mr. Jeff Toms from Deltars, and I think he will be addressing you in the first 15 minutes of this session. Could you please take the stage?
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I've been asked to join this afternoon's session at fairly short notice, so forgive some of the quality of the slides. It doesn't affect the quality of what I'm going to talk to you about, I hope. I'm honored to be here. It's really good to see Masdar doing this kind of work in the Arabian Gulf. Is this better? Yeah. It's really good to see Masdar doing this kind of work in the Arabian Gulf, and we're very honored and happy to help and share some of our knowledge on these systems also. So I'll quickly go through a series of rapidly prepared slides. You've heard about modeling already from the students of Mr. Tamani, and modeling at Deltars in Holland, in Delft, has been done for 30 or 40 years in different forms. In the last 20 years, we've been modeling the Arabian Gulf from very simple basic models to what is now very complex modeling of the Arabian Gulf processes in 2 dimensions initially, and now in 3 dimensions. And this information is shared, as you'll see during the presentation. We're now focusing our efforts on getting into more and more detail with a flexible mesh system, so that within one operation we can model very detailed areas as well as quite coarse and complex. One of the things we're working on at the moment and want to share with all of you and many other people around the Gulf, and if possible wider, is the concept of an Arabian Gulf model community. And within this concept, the model will be available to a wider community and shared by us all. As you see, the Arabian Gulf is not that difficult to describe in some ways. It's a closed basin. One end is open to the Indian Ocean, and if we understand the movements of the Indian Ocean, we can transfer those with our equations into the Arabian Gulf and then study water levels that you see in this slide. We can also study many other aspects, salinity, all the conditions that lead to the algae growth issues that we've just spoken about. And we need to do that at a very high level, and we need to share our information and share our data around the Gulf. Models are only as good as the data that we've got to calibrate them and build our confidence with it. So the concept is that we're going to be sharing this model with you via a website. You can download the model under certain conditions. You can use it. You can share it with colleagues. And one of the conditions that we require is that any data that you collect to improve the model, you share back with the community. And this way we generate a very efficient model that we all will have confidence in it. It's a community model, it's not a Deltares model. We're just kicking off the process and making the website available. The model can be used for research. It can also be used commercially under terms which don't return any money back to Deltares. So I think it's quite a novel and forward-thinking initiative, and we're very happy that we're able to share it with you and the idea of it today. Also, these models can be used in a forecasting mode, as you've heard. There's a forecasting system that you can attach to the models. If you can forecast weather, you're forecasting the driving forces that influence water movement, and then we can put those forecasts onto our models and generate predictions for the days ahead. And this is well known. If you implement it in different parts of the Gulf, you can set up forecasting systems that are available to the municipalities, the people doing marine construction, navigation, ports, and this way the information is again shared and used in the most effective way. One of the primary uses of the models until now has been to look at pollution sources and how they spread. And a lot of the environmental regulations are written about certain distances from a pollution source. We need to reach certain dilutions and certain concentration reductions. Nowadays, we're focusing much more on impacts than concentration reductions, because it's all about what kind of impact we can tolerate in the marine environment in different parts. And we're promoting that effort with our models as well. Interactive models is a thing of the future, which we'll introduce in another forum shortly, where models can be downloaded, and with a brush of a mouse across the screen, we can implement breakwaters, block passages of water, and look at the impacts without going through weeks and weeks of modeling. So this is new developments that we're working on very strongly in Deltares. We're sharing these with Masdar as we go along. We're in discussion about how we can implement those and work with the students at Masdar in that way. These are called rapid assessment tools, and you can see they can be applied to many different things there on the bottom right-hand side. One of the important ways to apply models is to look at things that you're worried about, like harmful algae blooms. One of the others that we're all concerned about is salinity in the Gulf, and these models are well suited to looking at long-term salinity buildups that may be coming from the desalination plants or from global warming or the combination of these things. And we have a demonstration in our stand here at the exhibition, stand 3004, on how some typical results of these simulations. So we're trying to take our modeling after many years of consulting with it and selling it as software. These days our models are available as open source models. You can download them free of charge on the internet. So the software is downloadable free of charge, and very soon one of the first models that we're going to release free of charge via internet in a community-based concept is the Arabian Gulf model, and we hope this way to stimulate very high quality work in this area. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for this short notes, because I believe Dr. Rashid Al-Shahi from the Ministry of Environment couldn't make it today, so we really appreciate you accepting that invitation. Thanks. Any question, please? Yep, there is a question. Please, Chair.
I'm really sorry, it may be me, but I didn't understand what you're exactly modeling.
Sorry?
What are you modeling?
What are we modeling?
Yeah, it wasn't specified, I think.
We have constructed a model of, or we construct many models. The model I've been talking about is a model of the Arabian Gulf, the hydrodynamics of the Arabian Gulf.
So hydrodynamic.
It can be applied for water quality. We've done this too. For temperature, salinity, for ecology. any of these items. It's being used in all sorts of ways by the countries around the Gulf. Together with KISA, we're looking at using it in a three-dimensional sense around the Gulf to look at all sorts of influences. So many ways.
Thank you, Gia, for the good presentation. I just wanted to add that Deltares is a main partner among the international partners at Masdar Institute, and our lab is working jointly with them to develop the community model that I would like you to address. I mean, address the concept of the community model that that you came up with the idea, to establish in the region, and how the external partners who are present here or not can contribute to the community model that you are willing to build.
Thank you. The community model will be downloadable from the website under certain conditions. The conditions are not very stringent. The main condition is that it remains a community model, so improvements that you make to it should ideally be fed back to the community so that the model grows in strength and capability. I'm told within 6 months this will be available. Probably within 2 or 3 months the website is up and running. In the longer term, we hope that initial model, which is two-dimensional, will become a three-dimensional community model, and that needs to be arranged within maybe a timescale of a year. So within these kinds of timescales we're thinking, and yeah, there will be obviously some conditions attached to the download, but they're not stringent conditions. It's really designed as a community-based tool that can be improved and added on by the community. Does that address your issues?
No more.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thanks. Our next speaker going to be Engineer Wissam Qastakli from Department of Transport. Please take the stage.
Assalamu alaikum. Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you for being here for Thursday afternoon to attend this workshop. Okay. My name is Wissam Qasdarli. I'm a maritime infrastructure specialist. I have around 15 years of experience. I spent the first 10 years in consultancy firms. And then since 2009, I joined Department of Transport Maritime sectors. During my today's speech, I will give you a general presentation about DOT, then maritime sector, and then Waterways management, who is the entity dealing for anything related to Abu Dhabi Waterways management system. In the first part of the presentation, once I made the presentation of DOT, then in the second part, I will give you a general outlines of ongoing project managed by Waterways division. So let's start by DOT, which relatively a young entity established in 2006 and then amended by law number 5 of 2008. The main mission of DOT is to look after a sustainable transport system, which include the aviation, maritime, and surface transport. Vision of DOT Maritime, which is driven from DOT main vision, is to be a maritime sector that helps to deliver an effective maritime transport system. In DOT maritime sectors, we have 5 divisions. I will not go in details, so I will just try to make it as soon as possible, but mainly maritime development and facilitation, maritime policy, maritime safety and security and environment, water transport. Here we are managing the ferry linking Muharraq Port to Dilma Island, and the Waterways Management Division, which is my division. In the Waterways Management Division, we have 2 sections, the maritime infrastructure and for planning and approvals, and the maritime risk assessment. Let's first start by a presentation or a definition of the waterways. The waterways, for us, the definition of waterways is not like in the European definition. It's all the water between the land from the highest astronomical tide to this yellow line. The yellow line is basically a baseline defined by ministerial decisions from Dubai border to Qatar border. From those water, we are not responsible for anything belongs to SPC, Supreme Petroleum Council, and the military waters. Except this, everything is under DOT Waterways Management responsibility. Functions, again, I will go very fast, is Waterways Management section is mainly looking after a safe navigation from an operational point of view, and the maritime infrastructure is more about the construction of any development in waterfront and like a new marina, jetties, sleepways, launching facilities, such structure we are looking and we are reviewing the developments and we are issuing NOCs, and in the same time we are managing and doing public projects. In DOT Waterways Division, we have the Waterways Regulations, which could be, for us, it's our Bible. Here we have 7 main parts of those regulations, mainly related to safety of navigation for vessels and operators, licensing of vessel operators, the inter-agency cooperation roles and responsibilities, protection of marine environment, standards for vessel construction, standards regarding maritime construction, and enforcement and penalties. All this is in terms of regulation. We are issuing regulation for all those aspects. Here we have, let's say, our main stakeholders. We can see mainly we are dealing a lot of UPC, the municipality, the environment agency, of course, the MSEC people. They are not here anymore, but they are our main stakeholders as well. So let's go now to some ongoing project managed by our team. Each slide could be a subject of a presentation, so maybe it will be not very clear. So if you have any question, you can interrupt me right now. First project, project number 1, is a risk assessment study, phase 1. It's a pilot project that we did in Al Batin area. For the people familiar with the site, it's around the Intercon Hotel, where we identified waterways users' needs, and based in the existing regulation, we made a kind of zoning with a map and with actual maritime signage on water and on land, with some rules, restrictions, like speed limits or no-go area, some signage to define the swimming areas. And this was just a pilot site, and we are starting soon phase 2, which will cover the remaining areas of Abu Dhabi waters. Here, just an example of signage that you can actually physically see it in that area, floating or on land signage. Let's move to project number 2. Here, to make it very simple, we tried to move from case number 1, where people were going on our waterways for the jet skis without safety equipment, without numbering, without really knowing where to go and where to not to go. And our project was to enforce the registration of the jet skis with, here I can see the plate number, Abu Dhabi 1001G. It's a jet ski owned by DOT, and with the rider wearing a helmet and a safety device. And in the background, you can see the signage of defining the swimming areas. Of course, this project for us was a huge project because we had to coordinate with many stakeholders, mainly the insurance authority, because all jet skiers should be insured, the CISPA people, because we have to enforce it also. It's not enough to put rules, but also we need to enforce it. With the jet skiers community, they are not easy people to deal with, with the hotels owners, because everyone is happy to have jet skiers in Abu Dhabi, but not in front of his hotel. And same with all the palaces and all those people. So it was a challenging project. One of the outputs of this project was the fact that we published this map showing the restricted area for jet skis, mainly in Al Corniche area in the northern coast of Saadiyat Island, in between two bridges, and in Raha Beach. Of course, we did also some signage where we decide that that area will be no-go for jet skiers. Okay. Next project, the Hydrographic survey project. We did the phase 1, which covering this first area from Dubai to Abu Al-Abyad Island, which is just the western side of Abu Dhabi Island, including a small channel for the ferry service between Sirbinias and between Muharraq and Delma Island. The main outcome of this project will be the navigational chart. We finished already phase 1, and we are planning to start soon phase 2 to again cover the remaining area of Abu Dhabi waterways. Project 4 that is still ongoing. We started in early in 2014. We started the maintenance of X2 navigation. Here in Abu Dhabi, we have around 700 X2 navigation, and Waterways management team is through our subcontractor is maintaining all those A to N. Of course, I'm talking only about the A to N outside the port limits, because inside the port limits, it's Abu Dhabi Port Company responsibility. Project 5. I think that the best way to present this project is to refer you to the previous presentation done by Jeff, because we coordinate already with Deltares to finish phase 1 of this project, and the main scope of work of this project, or the output of this project, will be the establishment of 2 systems. An operational prediction system, which will be run twice to simulate hydrodynamic condition. And the main purpose will be, for forecasting purpose, of course, to inform the waterways users about the water condition in our area. And the second system will be a decision support system, which will be used mainly by the infrastructure maritime team. That means before approving any project, we will be running this software to see the results of the simulation, what will happen if we construct this project. The main problem in Abu Dhabi is that consultants today are doing the same thing for this DSS, but the problem that each consultant is using his own system, his own as-is situation, and he's doing his own assumption. So for us as a government, it's very difficult to assess the result. If we are not starting from the same as-is situation, we will never end up with the same results. Here, it's just an example. I mean, Deltares and even previous presentation showed a lot of existing model. We are, as a user, I mean, of course, we need to start from an overall system, but we need our area as well. When it comes to our area, the systems are not anymore, I would not say not relevant, but not accurate enough, basically because of the bathymetric survey. And this one was also a reason of our ongoing bathymetric survey project. We have also this project which is going on. We did a maritime infrastructure needs assessment. Here in Abu Dhabi, developers are very strong. They have the power. They are developing a lot. But any developer is mainly looking for business profit. So you will find a lot of marinas in Abu Dhabi, but very little marinas with a proper marina services in terms of fuel facilities, in terms of sleepway, in terms where we can repair our nice yacht. One of the biggest issue here is the launching facilities. I mean, you are in an island in Abu Dhabi, but you cannot have, it's not easy to access to the water. So this project was meant to establish an inventory of the existing public facilities. Then we determined the demand for additional facilities. And the last task was to propose a plan for implementation. Maritime Infrastructure and Design Code. This was, actually, this project is finished. We will be reviewing it soon based on some comments came from our consultants and developers and stakeholders in general. But this version is already approved and it's published in DOT website. The main purpose of this design code for maritime infrastructure, it's a code for maritime infrastructure. I mean, to avoid any issues while we are reviewing the NOCs for any new development, we decide to put the common data for any project in this design. We are not talking about norms or international standards, how to design it, but the basic. If we are talking about a benchmark, about the difference between the child datum and the new Abu Dhabi datum, the municipality datum, we thought that it would save a lot of effort and time for the consultant if we will provide them with this information. So this is the main purpose of this design code, which include also a glossary defining some keyword in maritime infrastructure, which doesn't mean the same thing in Australia or in America or in Netherlands. So we said, okay, in Abu Dhabi, jetty, this is the definition of a jetty. This is the definition of such what, and we made like a list of all or the most used vocabulary in our field. This one more project that we did it just before starting the Formula One event. Wa alaikum salam. We dredged the yes channel to, it's a maintenance dredging. And because MSEC they are here, thank you very much. We finished the presentation. I will just finish with the challenge that we face what? Yeah. One of the challenges is the fact that we needed to amend some of DOT law with regard to the waterways management and maritime transportation function. The balancing between DOT as a regulator and the operator, time's up. Achieving effective and coordination and cooperation on maritime issues, because we have a lot of stakeholders at the same area, so the integration, it's not all the time easy. The biggest issue, I would say, that we are, as DOT, we are a local government. That means we are only working in Abu Dhabi waters, while the water issues should generally treated as maybe national or even international, at least at the Gulf area level. Of course, the approvals and the fact that we needed to coordinate with the developers is not also something easy to do. And with that, I finish my presentation.
Thank you, Sam. Is there any question, please? Questions?
Thank you, Wissam, for this rich presentation. You have mentioned already in your concluding slide that there are many stakeholders involved in maritime, but I have a question regarding the role of DOT as regulator and also as operator of maritime waterways. We know that, for example, EAD, maritime, or department at EAD also dealing with environmental impact of many activities. So what kind of interactions you had with those agencies in terms of to have harmonizing regulation regarding environmental protection for the waterways?
I would say that it's we are still starting this waterways management system, and the interaction between all those stakeholders that you mentioned and others is, let's say, the boundary is not really very defined. We are trying to deal through mainly MSEC to try to coordinate as much as possible all our efforts within those waterways, from EAD point of view, municipality, UPC. So I would say, like, working group, the Waterways Management Working Group now is one of the best tools to deal with all those stakeholders' needs and restrictions.
Well, I guess I have a question here. If there is no question over there, it's probably similar to Dr. Hussein's question. Do you carry an EIA for any water jetty you are building?
Any project in Abu Dhabi should guarantee an environmental NOC from the environmental agency. So I would say yes, but not directly from the waterways management. We are issuing NOCs, yes, but the environmental approval should be guaranteed from the environmental agency.
Okay. Any question, please? Well, thank you very much. Thanks. I guess now going to be my talk, which shouldn't talk that much. And I will be focusing mainly on the, if I may say, the opportunity which we should be looking how we could protect our natural resources in the UAE, and the talk going to be focusing in the United Arab Emirates. My talk will be covering mainly, for those of you won't see number, you won't see that much talks or writing or modeling, but at the end of the talk, I will be just focusing on the dams and the impact of dams on the marine environment, and that will be the main issue in my talks. Is it on, or should I just? Okay, I'm going to skip probably the first 2-3 slides, because when we talk about sustainability, from my academic background, we are talking about to sustain a resource, mainly for us, for a human being, because nature, it would take care of itself unless we are impacting it, and we have to really protect the resources for ourselves. And as you probably know, the whole GCC or the Gulf, they are, I will call the people living in the GCC, they are coastal dwellers, so you see them really tied to the marine environment before the discovery of the oil, and still until now. And the Gulf, which is, I'm looking for the laser pointer in it. When I talk about fishery, I'm going to mention this area here from Qatar border up to Musandam, and I will give some number in it, and I want you just to focus on this area right now, and you will see how we are really impacting this marine environment. Those are the main outline which I will be covering, which I will be talking about. I hope I'm not going so fast. It's okay? Okay. So the mangrove as an ecosystem, the way how we look at it and how we should really protect it as a resource. Mangrove, we know all that we have only one species, the Avicenna marina in the UAE, except red mangrove, which is at the entrance of the Gulf, and some of them in Oman, but the rest of the Gulf has only one species, which is the Avicenna marina. And all the Emirates, in each creek, there will be, most of them, they have a connection to the wadis, and they will get some fresh water to the mangrove ecosystem, except in the Emirate of Abu Dhabi, where there is some mangrove, they will be an isolated island. But from our studies in the past in Abu Dhabi, in those islands, the pearl diver in the past, they used to dig some wells and they collect fresh water from those islands. That means there is still a link to the mangrove for fresh water. And we look at this ecosystem, so important as a nursery ground. Unfortunately, nowadays, because of the development in the whole UAE, there is a little bit, I will say, of an impact on the mangrove ecosystem. And we are trying to, for example, the Emirate of Ras Al Khaimah, if you allow me, because I came from there, we are trying to protect 3 natural areas to have it as a marine protected area where they have mangrove in the Emirate of Ras Al Khaimah. Those are the university students from the UAE University, where we are studying actually the mangrove and its impact. Other resource, which we do not look at it that much, if I may say, it is the marine invertebrate. We talk about oil spill, and we talk about fishery, and we talk about transportation in the marine environment, but unfortunately, we overlook the importance of the marine invertebrate. And mainly when I say marine invertebrate, such as clams and sea urchin or sea cucumber, which is really being heavily fished by outsider. Those for us, or for those of you who have a marine ecology background, you know that they play a very important role in the marine environment. But unfortunately, even until now, we don't have that much, for example, of a bylaw to protect the marine invertebrate, and which they need that. Just some slide of the marine invertebrate. Fishery is the main sector, which I look at it after oil. Now in UAE, we have about 6,000 fishing boats, and we have a coastal area of almost 650 kilometers. When you look at those 6,000 fishing boats, we depend on the demersal species and the pelagic species. Pelagic species, they come seasonally, and they are mainly, I will say, in Fujairah and Ras Al Khaimah, but the rest of the UAE, they are heavily fishing the demersal species. Demersal species, we are using traps. When you take 6,000 boats, and if you say each boat, for example, having an average of 50 traps, which is some of them, they have more than 1,000, by the way. But when you say each boat having just 50 traps, and each trap, we give it like a 2 square meter, imagine the impact on the seabed, or mainly in the corals, along that area, which I show you in the beginning. Because they will be deploying these traps and visiting them every 3-4 days. That is why I believe a couple of years ago, when the Environmental Authority in Abu Dhabi did some study, and they came up with that our resources, or our fish resources, is heavily overfished. And you can see that nowadays if you go to the fish market, easily you can tell that a species is being fished when you see the size of that species is getting smaller and smaller in the market. That is a clear indication that species is being overfished, and we see that very often now in our fish market. Shark, now the Ministry of Environment have just passed a law to protect shark. I took this picture, I don't know if you can tell, that was me in the middle, at 2 o'clock in the morning in one of the fish landing site in one of the Emirates, and one boat landed 64 specimens of shark. And those 64, all of them get bought for 15,000 dirham only. Some of the merchants who really bought those fish, they're just gonna take the fin, export it. I don't know what happened to the meat. But nowadays, this size of shark, you don't see them that much in UAE. And when I say our resources need to be protected, when I was a child, I came up from a fisherman family, and when I was a child, we used to see shark, the average 4 to 5 meters in our town. Nowadays, rarely if you will be able to see a shark which is 2 meters. Very rare. And that can tell you or can give you a very clear indication that cartilaginous fishes, or mainly sharks, are being heavily fished. And this is just an example in the fish market. This is actually the seabed where they deploy the traps, and they end up with, I'm sure all of you know those 2 species, the very famous species in UAE, the Shari and Hamur. You see how small the Hamur here. Those are the pelagic species, which is mainly on the East Coast. Marine pollution. I always use this slide, but I don't know which one is the tanker in this slide. There is 2, as you can tell. Anyhow, the problem we have, I think it has been discussed in the first couple presentation. They did mention the importance of following the oil spill or looking at the impact of the red tide, which could be alien species coming to the UAE. We focus mainly in oil spill. But if I call myself a marine biologist and I came from a background of marine environment, I will say plastic bags we should really look at. Because the oil spill, yes, when we see an oil spill, it irritates us and we have to do something. But nobody sees how many plastic bags in the seabed. Nobody knows how many traps is being lost in the seabed, and nobody looked at it, or how much ghost fishing do we have from the fishermen. But in any case, this is an issue. The other issue, which already has been mentioned, desalination plant, how much brine water is being pumped to the marine environment. And I believe our friend from Kuwait mentioned in the morning, linking the fresh water coming to the Gulf and how that's going to affect the productivity in our water. This is just an example of an oil spill where you cannot track the ship, which really causes destruction. Sand mining is another issue. I link this to many NGO activities. How is that? Many NGO activities, sometimes they will say, and they will put a sign, beach cleaning. To me, beach cleaning has more impact on the marine environment than cleaning it. Because people, they will go with maybe 1,000 or, I don't know, hundreds, and they will be walking the beach without knowing what is there in that beach. And there will be a negative impact. To me, I look at it, of course, it's not the same scale, but similar to when we do beach sand mining. Dredging is another issue, and if a lot of you know some of the people or some of the fishermen, they start complaining about loss in their catch. UAE per boat landing from 76 till now dropped more than 50%. Part of it, probably the number of boats have increased, the fishing efforts have increased, but also the marine environment is being destructed. There is an impact in corals reef. Another issue, we looked at it and we miss most of the time, is marine wildlife. The marine wildlife, I started a project in marine turtle, which was funded by Shell a couple of years ago in '96. And we do have 5 species out of the 7 species of marine turtle in the UAE. 2 of those species, they nest in our coast. The green one, which is more toward Dubai and Ras Al Khaimah, while the hawksbill, which is in the western part of UAE, which is in Abu Dhabi area. And we try to do some study to follow them and to look at the migration route of those marine turtle. I remember one of them, It was tagged in Oman, and we put a satellite tag in it in UAE. We are expecting it to swim back to Oman, but it stayed in UAE until the battery went dead. Sea snakes, another issue here. Nobody look at it. In the UAE University, we did a project a couple years ago to look at the sea snakes and how we could really utilize them for medicine by one researcher, but since that researcher, an American guy, have left, there is no study in sea snakes. So what I'm trying to say here, the marine wildlife, it needs to be really highlighted. Scientific research, this is the most important point which I want to share with you. In the Emirate of Ras Al Khaimah, we are starting now a project in surveying the whole coastal area of Ras Al Khaimah and linking that to the impact of the dams. I have been talking about the impact of dams on the marine environment and not much, I'm not being able to get that much of interest. So what I did, I looked at the sediment or some of the elements. Now we are just collecting some of the heavy metals or some elements from the upper of the dam and lower of the dam, and I will show you some of the results because my theory was I was thinking that the wadis, all the wadis in UAE, they connect to the marine environment. So yearly they bring a lot of nutrient for the productivity of the plankton. But what we are doing, we are building dams, so we are really impacting the ecology of that wadi. In addition to that, none of those nutrients will end up into the sea. So I will skip this slide. Oops. Oh, this is the result here. We looked at two Wadi Qad'a and Wadi Al-Bih, where we collected 4 samples from the upper side of the wadi, where the water is coming from the mountain, and below the dam. The dam is holding the water, and it shows us a very clear indication. And if you may look at the zinc, for example, 0, it means close to the dam. Before, which is the water side, then the flow of the water, it was 16 microgram per gram. Then after that, it's only 2. That means it has been held by the dams. It's not going to the marine environment. And if you may look at all of them, you will see that the trend showing you that it is low and going up where is the dam. And once you cross the dam, it's becoming again high and low. So that means most of the nutrient is being held by the dam. This study, it's in the beginning. We just started it a month ago. But I wanted to share this data with you to show you that probably, I'm saying probably, the dams have really a negative impact on the marine environment. Nobody's checking my time, so I'm taking the whole time for me. Yeah? So what's that? So those, you might see that the type of elements we are checking really, and all of them, they will show you. Even look at it, 10 meters away from the dam to a 7 before, and when you cross the dam, it will be 4. I'm trying to do that later on in the phosphate. We're going to look at the phosphate, and hopefully to link it with the productivity. In addition to that, with Masdar, we started also looking or doing some field work in the marine environment when Masdar get the result in their image that there is an oil red tide. They get in touch with us, so we are working together, and we're trying to develop that project together. I believe I'm not going to go through those data with you, but this is what we believe in, that is to protect our marine environment. Or if we're gonna looking for a sustainable marine environment, we have to work together. And that's what we believe in. So by this, I will end up my talk. And this is a lion, which is a new species. If you have any question, I hope I will be able to answer it for you.
Coming from a marine background, and you see lots of plastic bags, I come from a similar background, but in the Pacific Ocean, which they now consider the big trash bag. In the state of Hawaii in the United States, they've banned the use of plastic bags completely. California and Florida have similar laws. What are you hoping to see here done initiatively to educate people about using trash bags less, or plastic bags less and less and less? I mean, we all are guilty of going to the store, getting fruits and vegetables and ripping that bag open. That's the first thing to get flown away into the water. What would you like to see done to reduce that impact?
When people ask me this type of question, the first thing I say, education, education, education. That's what we are really missing here. There is a law, and there is, I believe, a ministerial decree to ban using plastic bag by 2013. But I still see plastic bag, as you just said, that people are using it. The problem, and I always believe, if there is no punishment, people, they will not, they will not take the initiative. And I say that if there is no traffic light, you will just keep going. So you must have a traffic light to stop you. And that's why people, they get annoyed when the light become red, because they feel they want to be just driving the way how they want. So what I'm trying to say from that, if there is a punishment, first of all, education, educating the people, so we should be really the pioneer, or the initiative should be from us, not by the government or by the ministry.
So would you say that you would like to see fines or punishments handed down through, say, CARE4 and the other chains? I think that's where it should really start, because, CARE4, you can go to the register and get the reusable bags that have a lifetime guarantee. You can come back, but you're not seeing it actually implemented. Additionally, what can we do in the schools to get these kind of programs going? Earth Day's in April. We could hopefully cross our fingers for next year to do something, but I guess as a parent, or as a community, what do we do to rally behind that?
I think there is a big role for the NGO to play, to educate the people. That's what I said. And schools, teachers, they have to play a very, very strong role in educating the kids, for protecting the environment. Otherwise, we will not be able to convince those people, because, for example, I came from the UAE University, and I have seen some students, not only the UAE University, all over the UAE, they will be driving their cars, and the trash is coming from the car. But not everybody does that. Yeah, not everybody, but some people, those people, you need to educate them, you need to reach them, to have them feel they have to change this behavior. And they cannot do that, I believe, without punishment. When I was a child, in our way of life, the local here, in the past, we used to eat from one dish. They put the rice and the meat, so everybody will eat. If a child starts to eat before his parents, They hit them with the spoon or whatever on their hand. That is a way of teaching the child will never do it again. A punishment. So that telling the child, don't eat before your parents. This is the law. I went with Fish and Wildlife last summer in Washington State in a survey. And we are measuring the crabs, size of the crabs. And the Coast Guard, they are carrying guns with them. So we get one ship or one boat, and they have some crabs, and barely the crabs, I think it was 1 millimeter. It went through the measurement roller. And he gave him a fine. So I said to him, it is only 1 millimeter. If you have twisted the crab this way, it would not gone through the rule. Then he said to me, Saif, this is the law. They have to respect the law. So what I'm trying to say, once you have a law and it's clear cut, everybody will respect that. Yes.
But sometimes they change the law. I mean, like, for example, they use the green plastic that can be decomposed. I mean, this is another way of using plastic by, changing only the language, which is, calling the plastic green plastic.
Yeah, the industry, they play.
But as individual, I don't know this is a green plastic.
Yeah.
It's just a plastic, a bag made by plastic. I don't know whether it's a green or,
No, even they write in it, some of the industry, what they do, they write to you degradable plastic. This is fooling the people. Because there is a difference between biodegradable and degradable. Degradable, everything is degradable. But they don't put biodegradable, they put degradable. So people, they say, oh, this is degradable. Yeah, I know, everything is degradable. But this is not a biodegradable. So this is how they try to, but it's changing. It's getting better and better. Well, there is no question. Thank you very much. We end the session.